This is an R Media podcast.
It didn't matter about the house, it was the community. And so they went looking and visited all different suburbs and found a community that they wanted to be part of. And she said, I love the fact that now I can open my window and I can smell the burnt toast next door, or I can hear the mum down the street shouting at her kids. And that makes her feel alive. She can go outside and talk to the neighbours, and it is so important. When you're talking to clients, is this something you need to bring up with them, or are they coming to you saying, we want to build community?
Welcome to The Edit, where we open the door on the homes, habits and tiny decisions that make a house feel like a home. Today's episode, it's a little bit different and a whole lot of fun. This year, Home Beautiful was lucky enough to attend Metricon's National Love of Design Summit, where we had our minds opened by some of Australia's leading thinkers and makers in home and design. And because we can never help ourselves, we hijacked the panel I hosted and recorded it as a live bonus episode of The Edit. No question was too big or too small, from when to push a trend your client isn't quite ready for, to why being able to smell your neighbour's burnt toast might just be the secret to a happier home. So, who was in the room with me? Ali Whelan, Principal and Design Lead at Melbourne's Breathe Architecture, the studio behind the game-changing Nightingale housing projects, proving that sustainable, community-first apartments are exactly where people want to live. Michael Leung, architect and co-founder of Byron Bay's Balanced Earth, Australia's hempcrete pioneers, building naturally healthy homes the way communities used to, together. Neil Hipwell, carpenter turned designer and builder and the founder of Futureflip, the team behind some of the most jaw-dropping homes on the New South Wales coast, including Solstice, this year's HIA Australian Custom-Built Home of the Year. And James Treble, interior designer, colour expert and familiar face from your television, with 3 decades across building, real estate and design fresh off the plane from Milan Design Week. This is part 1 of 2. In this episode, what it really feels like to push boundaries with clients, with councils, even with the banks, and why a beautiful home is about so much more than how it looks. There's a basement golf simulator that's brought a whole street together, a skate bowl built for rainy days, and a very strong case for waving at your neighbours through the window. Part 2, where I hand the microphone to the audience and we get into the future of Australian homes, will land right here in your feed soon. So settle in and let's join the panel.
We're going to have a chat. And actually, I've got a little confession. We're also, Home Beautiful's hijacking this panel. So we're going to record it as a video podcast for Home Beautiful. So
Management.
So thank you very much. Welcome to the panel. Welcome to The Edit. All right. So I am going to kick off with a couple of questions. But to set this up, feel free to answer all together, bounce off each other. The first thing I want to ask is, each of you in your own way pushes boundaries. Some of you outside of design as well.
She's talking about you.
But what I'm really interested to know is, how does that feel? Because it can be quite scary. Is it scary? Are you nervous when you push the boundaries through your work? Is it thrilling? Ali, let's start with you.
I think it's probably more frustrating because a lot of big change, it takes political conversations or really frustrating conversations that are totally outside the world of architecture to make change in how we live. Yeah. But then it's really rewarding when you see the impact that you can have on people's lives. You get a lot of live feedback from residents about what they like and what they don't like.
How do they deliver that?
Our office used to be in the bottom of one of our buildings in Brunswick, and they would come and knock on the window. You got to take the good with the bad, right? Like, we're open to feedback because we are challenging boundaries. We're not always going to get it right. So we're really receptive to that feedback, but it's also really nice to hear about the positive impacts it can have. You know, like I was talking about older single women being able to re-enter housing markets. Yeah. Some of those women have just totally changed their lives. And so that's really rewarding.
Absolutely. Michael, I know you were, I was going to say alluding to, maybe not so much alluding, but the bureaucracy and approvals and certifying. How do you feel knowing that you are going to get pushback by pushing a boundary? How do you feel?
When you first asked the question, I must say I feel inspired by what we do.
Yeah.
Everyone I talk to, it kind of sells itself. And I think the bureaucratic systems that we exist in are just there to be pushed. If we're not pushing it, and as a collective, if we're not pushing it, then how are we going to implement the change that we all so badly want? So you have to be inspired, you have to be enthusiastic, you have to be joyful about it. I've worked in mainstream architecture, building big houses and luxurious things all over the world, and it just doesn't float my boat anymore. My soul searches for something else, and I enjoy what I do and I believe what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Neil, how about you? Because you would have had some discussions with local councils, I'm sure.
Yep.
How did they go? Tell us.
So for me, I started as a builder, a carpenter, and then I saw most of the problems within the industry were based on design not being innovative and not adapting to where we need to go, because materials change, they become less available, they become too expensive, trades become obviously almost obsolete in some settings. So for me, I was always innovating new ways to go, okay, we can't get a gyprocker, let's just do off-form concrete. I don't need to put any gyprock in, it looks great. I've eliminated some material out of the building. So that evolved into a lot of other things for me. Different roadblocks were happening and I'd have to sort of get the right consultants on board and negotiate. But I think as designers, it's important to keep pushing the boundaries and looking at ways to build, because if your houses are boring, you're basic. Like my whole business has been built around pushing those boundaries and making my houses look different to the next, and kind of starting trends and things like that. And it ultimately means more profit, more work. So yeah, it is a good challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, James, I think you can push the boundaries in a... This is the
Don't make it smutty.
No.
Innuendo.
I'm going to ask you about pushing boundaries with customers. So you gave us a fantastic rundown on Milan 2026, taking those trends and bringing them back to really sell them into brands that you work with, and also homeowners, customers, clients. How do you know when to push a trend, and how do you know when they're just not ready?
The word trend I'm actually a little bit allergic to. I watch it. I sort of talk about it as a journey and the ebb and flow of finishes, colours. As Sandro says, there's no such thing as a new colour. Every colour's been here forever, right? It's just how we use it. I definitely agree with Neil. I think it's actually our job as a designer, as a creative, to push boundaries. It's about how we do that. Otherwise, we'll end up doing something repetitive. With design, it's about getting the ideas, but I have to wear... I talk about two hats when I'm with clients, especially when I'm with a builder or developer, because they are talking about money. So I say, I started life as a real estate agent, and I look with the real estate eye. Does it hold value? Does it suit the property? Will it date well? Can I sell this to a maximum amount of people? And then I put the design hat on as well and say, with that in mind, how does it fit this project? Who's going to be living there? What colours are there? Is it visually interesting? And I think that you can push the boundaries and suggest strongly colours or textures or finishes in ways that could be edited later, perhaps, because fixed joinery and flooring can be at an expense, but furniture and artwork easily, to still open up the doors for the conversation and opportunity. So I actually think it's our job to do that, and just read the room as to how crazy you can go. And sometimes that conservative lady in tweed is secretly just waiting to go crazy, and she gets excited by that. So I think it's important.
Absolutely. I know in magazines, when we see a look coming through, I'll be honest, sometimes we will hold off on publishing for a good 12 months, sometimes 18 months, because we know our audience isn't ready. And we might start playing with it within the magazine and in the photo shoots, but we certainly wouldn't put it on the cover because it'll just freak them out. But we want to educate and feed it through slowly. Think about when's the last time you pushed boundaries in your own jobs? It's uncomfortable, but it's exciting. And I think beyond today, it's something to really keep in mind, that idea that will get you fired, but don't get fired. How far could you push if your boss was willing and accepting? Ali, I was thinking about what you were saying with the social element of design. And recently I interviewed Steph Ottavio. And for anyone who doesn't know, she is an architect. She owns Japandi Estate. And she was also a contestant on The Block, and she won with her husband. And she won't mind me sharing this, but after The Block, she went through a really low period. She felt really, really low. And it took quite a while for her to come out of it. And what she and her husband realised is they needed to sell their house. They'd come off the high of winning The Block, and you'd think this is the best thing ever. But they sold their house and wanted to buy somewhere new. And she said it didn't matter about the house, it was the community. And so they went looking and visited all different suburbs and found a community that they wanted to be part of. And she said, I love the fact that now I can open my window and I can smell the burnt toast next door, or I can hear the mum down the street shouting at her kids. And that makes her feel alive. She can go outside and talk to the neighbours, and it is so important. When you're talking to clients, is this something you need to bring up with them, or are they coming to you saying, we want to build community?
I mean, I think we've looked at such frictionless living, that there's no point of friction between the supermarket and putting the food in your fridge. So there's no moment where you sort of stop on that journey and experience some friction, finding your keys, getting them in your front door, that mean there's a moment to pause. We're in such a rush to get from A to B that I think, we're almost introducing friction into the process, making you get out of your car before you're in the garage, making you take the stairs instead of the lift, making you walk up to or catch the lift up to the rooftop to do your laundry. Those moments of friction, they're minor inconveniences which add a great deal of value to people's lives. And I think that's kind of not coherent with the most effortless, seamless way of living.
Yeah.
But it's also beautiful and connected in a lot of ways. And so I think it's not necessarily something that we educate people on so much as something that actually people buy into and really care about. Like, people are actively seeking out social connection. We had an awards jury come through, I believe it was the Commons, the predecessor to Nightingale won. And the Commons looks much like Nightingale in terms of aesthetic. It's pretty raw, it's robust. This was a very different aesthetic to what apartments were being delivered as then. It wasn't white, clean surfaces, pristine. It had a bit of friction, it had a bit of grit to it, it had really beautiful materials that were natural living materials. And we won the National Award for Housing that year. We were up against some incredible projects. And when we asked the jury, why that was the case, they said people seem to genuinely enjoy living here. Yeah. Like, a beautiful home isn't just about aesthetics. It's about a place that, that is more than just what it looks like. Absolutely.
And Neil, your places, in a way, are also designed for community. I mean, a different kind. You've got your bucks parties and your family weekends away. Was that intentional?
Yeah, I mean, on Bunker and Banks and Bunker Gerringong and Jimmy Doo, the properties that we Airbnb, they were definitely purpose-built for people to enjoy themselves and come together, and for families to have, 80th birthdays and cater to all of those moments. But to be honest, on all of our projects, I guess it's at a different scale at the moment, where we've been fortunate enough to build some really high-end, expensive houses. And one of the things the owner for the house we just won House of the Year for, which was Solstice, he's like, I love playing golf. My neighbours love playing golf. Let's do a golf simulator. And he's always, like, every time I go there, he's down there with his neighbours playing golf in the basement.
That is my husband's dream.
Yeah. So, and we're building our house at the moment in Byron, and you guys have had pretty good weather, but it normally just gets pretty rainy here. And other than going to the past, taking the kids surfing, there's not much to do in the rain. So we did a really big basement with a skate bowl and like stuff for the kids to do down in the basement, and bringing all the friends that live in the street, they can come and hang out and have fun in the house.
Yeah.
And the neighbours can come and we can chat to the neighbours when, you know, they're picking their kids up. And I guess it's the total opposite in terms of like getting out into the community, as you know, but having that luxury of having a little bit more budget to go and do some cool stuff, like having a wellness.
But it's inviting people in.
Yeah.
You know, like it's inviting that interaction and providing a space for it.
Yeah.
And providing opportunity is, you know, that
It's important.
it's really important.
Yeah. Like where we're living now, where we literally just have boxes everywhere, and, you know, our friends are like, should we come around for a barbecue? I'm like, let's just go to your house. Like it's kind of cool to design houses that you really want people to come around, that's comfortable and everyone likes being there, and there's places to kind of gather and talk and dance or whatever you're into.
I think in the work that we do, we try and create community through the process of building. So you saw in some of the photos, we'll do a shout out on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll get a huge amount of volunteers come. And it's like the old barn raising processes where everyone comes together to build your house. And within the business that we developed over the last 10 years, we would all go to each other's houses and help with the hempcrete and help with the construction. And having children involved in that as well is an inspiring process. But it makes the house feel like it's part of you. You know, you've had a hand in creating this. And it's a much more seamless kind of community, I feel.
Absolutely. And James...
Yeah, from a regulation point of view, I do not understand why councils want to put privacy screens on windows on houses because they're worried about us looking from one window to the next door neighbour for privacy, when the reality of these blocks, especially in new estates where they're squeezing, sometimes these lots are 350 or 400 square metres. What am I going to see? And you know, we grew up like John... I'm a twin, I mentioned it before, but, you know, we would lift up the Venetian blinds, anyone know what they are, and put our head on the glass and wave to Mrs. Labrise, because we could see her next door on her clothesline, and she would wave at us, and she knew who we were, and we knew who we were, and that was, like, utterly exciting to a 5-year-old, like, so exciting, and that was connectivity without us having barbecues or friends together.
With the 1700 sill height where you can't see anything except the top of...
Correct, so instead of that, the window heights are raised to make the head height the same, but the base coming up, and so these little highlight windows in bedrooms, like, and then you wonder why your 13-year-old daughter has mental health because she doesn't get any vitamin D. Like, it's really confronting, and that's a regulation from council. Like, what am I going to sit there with a chair and eat popcorn and just stare at the neighbours next door? Like, ring the police. Like,
it does depend.
What's the reality of people doing that? Nobody does it.
Depends who's living next to you. If I was living next to you, I probably would have a private screen.
You would not. You've been knocking on, like, coming over. His neighbours come because they want to go, let's check out what Neil and his wife have done on their next house. And the same, my barbecues are fantastic.
I'm only joking. It'd probably be very interesting to look into your apartment.
Yeah.
Another type of community I think is quite interesting to share is the Australian community at Milan Design Week. Because
lots.
Everybody goes over.
It's increased.
Not me.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah, there was a particular lady, if she's watching the podcast, she'll know who she is because we saw her come up on Insta, and she goes, I'm so exciting to be here at the Domo. And we're going, oh, it's the Duomo. It's like a cathedral. Don't call it a Domo. I think it's exciting for Australians to see what's happening. I think it's changed where we have that little syndrome of, you know, remember when the TV Week Logies used to be on, we always had to have international stars come. And now the international stars coming are Australian stars who have done well overseas and they come back.
Precisely.
And that's something that we need to celebrate. And, you know, through architecture here, you know, you've got amazing architectural forms in different spaces. We celebrate what is Australian, and we know we have good-looking homes. We have a community here. We have a political safety and a community where mostly we can all be ourselves, and then to relate the architecture that we create. And then we get this melting pot where the kids know they're introduced to food smells from next door that you mentioned, or the culture from that family. That creates community, doesn't it? Like it's exciting. Otherwise, it's a plate of mashed potato. You know, you need mixtures to make the meal interesting, to make our lives interesting.
And back to what you're saying about Australians in Milan, I think it's really interesting to note as well. It's not just us going there to get ideas, Australian design is really recognised worldwide. It's appreciated, and it carries weight. We clearly do some impressive work, and it is noticed, and it is held up as world standard.
Yeah, and I think because of our natural environment that we live in, I mean, look at Byron Bay. All of our houses are quite naturally off-grid. They're naturally off-grid septics. So in other countries through Europe where it's high density, you don't get that opportunity. And I think people from outside looking in see the environments they sit in and see that the nature, they're disconnected from towns and in more beautiful settings, and they feel inspired by that.
And that feels like the perfect place to pause. This was part 1 of our bonus episode from Metricon's Love of Design Summit. Ali Whelan, Michael Leung, Neil Hipwell and James Treble on pushing boundaries and on building homes that build community. A huge thank you to our panel for sharing so openly, and to Metricon for welcoming Home Beautiful into a room so full of ideas. But we're not done. In part 2, I hand the microphone to the audience, and no question is too big or too small. What will Australian homes look like in 10 or 20 years? How do we get more young people into their first homes? How much technology actually belongs in a house? And the question's so big, it nearly stumped the entire panel. That's coming soon, right here in this feed. In the meantime, our regular episodes of The Edit keep coming. More house tours, home confessions, tiny upgrades, and mystery drawer reveals. Follow The Edit wherever you're listening so you don't miss a thing. See you inside the next one.